TNT.
Okay, we're very happy to welcome to the program Rob Garson. Rob is the chairman of GS2 Law. He's an accomplished international lawyer. He's an advocate and a trial attorney. And we wanted to bring Rob on to basically discuss what we learned in this report. Hello, Rob Garson. Welcome to State of the Nation. It's wonderful to see you, sir. How are you today?
It's wonderful to see you as well.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the report makes for some reading, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, yes. That's what it does. It makes for some reading, especially page 3. How are they going to spin their way out of this? Because the anger angle isn't seeming to work.
Do you know what? It's very, very sad. As you can hear, I'm from Britain originally, so I don't. And now, thank God with the state of the world, I'm an American. But what strikes me here is that isn't the current Biden presidency a bit like a form of elder abuse? It makes for sad reading. Here's a gentleman that there's no doubt he's given service to the nation, however one wishes to spin what that service might be or might not have been, how he might have flip-flopped in his policies over time, and where it is now. It seems like that he's being rolled out and everybody's looking to secure that which everybody knows to be the case, which is there is an elderly gentleman who doesn't have the mental acuity that he once did have, certainly is a vibrant, younger member of government, and that they're declining to prosecute him at this time because, like any trial lawyer will know, you've got to look at how that person is going to come across, what the optics are going to be in that case. And what Robert Hur, remember, who was Merrick Garland's choice to be a special prosecutor. So he wasn't picked out of the far right conservative ranks. He's somebody that is a well-respected lawyer by other well-respected lawyers, and he's saying, I can't get a conviction against Biden. Why? He's going to come across as somebody who doesn't know, who couldn't know. Yet, my lord, this is the same man that is directing our country, and that people want to say, we wanted him to direct this country for another 4 years. We in the Jewish community say, Oi Gewalt.
I think that probably sums it up right there. But this idea of elder abuse, this comes up a lot. I've been thinking about this a lot for the last few years. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi. Look what her husband does with his free time, flipping cars and having friends over with in their underwear with hammers. I mean, you got Feinstein. You got McConnell. I mean, it's a real rogues gallery of geriatrics, and it's easy to sort of use that as pejoratives against these people, and God knows they've earned it in many cases because of their policies, but at the same time you think about their children, you think about your the elders in your family, and it's like, how is this our government? How is this happening? I mean, this is really widespread, and now it's reached the presidency, and it's finally become, kitchen table talking point.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, there's a difference between Britain and America, actually, in terms of the judiciary, where judges after a certain age it's mandatory that they retire. However, in the United States, there are judges who have been on the bench for well over 40 years, and because they have a job for life. And one does have to ask questions as to whether or not that's sensible generally, that you can have, I know there are certain judges that still use typewriters out there, and it's not to say there isn't a great deal that the elderly within our community have to offer us from an historical perspective. These people have served their countries very well indeed. When I sit down with the few Second World War veterans that still exist, the Vietnam veterans that exist, the Korea veterans that exist, each and every time I'm brought to tears by how unworthy I am to follow in their footsteps in nearly anything that I do. And I thank them profoundly for the service that they've given. And also because many of them have what's lacking in this world and this country at the moment, which is common sense. I even want to start a new political movement called Alternative Common Sense, where people can have common sense views, because that's novel. But here you have a man, look, he couldn't remember, with age, with all of us, there's a certain sensitivity for facts which is lost. There's a texture for precision which is lost. And here, the one thing I did like about it actually was that some of the report, that some of the boxes of materials were found next to the dog bed, and I was wondering whether or not that's the same savage dog that had to be thrown out of the White House. And I had this vignette in my head of an agent going to get the box, and leave that alone, down Shep. But no. So the question is realistically this: we do have two older gentlemen that are running for office on the next at the next election. You've got one who seems to be incredibly vital and one who's not. But the question is that when the Democrats are currently saying that this report itself is inherently offensive, it just isn't. All prosecutors, and when I used to do criminal law, you look at whether or not you can get a conviction. You look at how that person is going to come across, because no prosecutor wants to cross-examine a nice old man and have the guy go, I just don't know. And that's the way it's going to come across. He'll look like a bully. The defense would be there, and it's just a waste of public funds. And as you said, sorry.
No. I was just going to say that this is actually, as far as I'm concerned, this is more damning than an indictment. This is the only reason we're not indicting him is because we don't think a jury would probably perceive us as being bullies, as you mentioned. And we don't know that he's cognitively fit to stand trial. That is so damning. He is a case study in term limits, to your point about judges who hang around and use, they're still living in an analog world with a typewriter. But it's funny because I remember well when they were trying to drum the former president out of office on the 25th Amendment case. And now any talk of that is verboten. And Karine Jean-Pierre today said, this report does not live in reality. Well, I don't know where she can get off saying that when we've all seen it with our own eyes.
Yes, I know. I get sent, we've all been sent that, as we did the other day. Whereas with General Al-Sisi being referred to as the president of Mexico, certainly, if he would have been the president of Mexico, there would have been a much more definite border. He's managed to keep the Rafah crossing well and truly closed over the years. But we all make mistakes in when we speak and how we speak. The question is, are you getting those lapses, those vacant pauses that we've seen, as you said, also with Mitch McConnell? It's practically, I don't know. It's like a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. It was a bit like the vote that happened the other day in terms of the Mayorkas impeachment vote, where you have, I believe it was Al Green being coming in scrubs out of hospital. It's sad. It really is sad to see where, how we're trying to wheel people out. The question is this: at what point will people say, from a common sense perspective, look, just because somebody's an incumbent doesn't give them a right necessarily to be in a position if they're not fit to be in that position. Like queens or kings have abdicated. Maybe it's time for somebody to put their arm around him and say, look, for your own good, do this. Like somebody should have said to Michael Jackson, look, Michael, you're a really nice guy, but maybe it's not the best look to get into bed with little kids. It just doesn't look right in the same regard. And here, somebody should put their arm around him from the conservative, from the Democrats, and say, look, let's do the best for the country. Let's put up our best person that we can, who is going to serve the country best in your stead. We know that's not Kamala Harris because the Democrats have ostracized her over the past God knows how long. In fact, since she assumed the vice presidency. The problem is there anybody willing or able to step up? They can't put any of that, the far left squad out there because the centrists will just react. Who else could there be to step up? Are their ranks so lacking that the Democrats don't have anybody but Joe Biden? Or is it he's good to be there because he's there to be manipulated? Look, you can stick him up there like Weekend at Bernie's, put a pair of sunglasses on him, get him to say something, and then put him back in the closet. It's not what you want from a president, is it?
Yeah. No. And, we're almost out of time, but what you just said kind of begs the question. There's a lot of clamor around about who's going to get combat landed into that slot if for some reason someone does pull him aside and say that. And some people are suggesting the shadow campaign by Gavin Newsom and even perhaps a Michelle Obama, both of which have the, put their politics aside. They both have that sort of vim and vigor that we're not seeing. What do you think about that potential situation moving forward to close us out?
No, there is a potential situation where that would come in. Michelle Obama's been on the ticket, been on that background ticket for a long time. Look, my dad was a doctor. Doesn't necessarily mean I can do anything with somebody's hearts. I'm not altogether sure, other than being likable, what Michelle Obama's qualifications would be. I think that would be incredibly dangerous in having somebody come in on a shadow ticket, and I feel the American people would feel shortchanged in that regard. People are entitled to know who they're going to vote for and who they're really going to get in power at that time. We all know that a president has his or her team around them and should have his or her team, but that doesn't mean the team is really doing the thinking for them. We are entitled to know who we are going to vote for and who will lead us in the future, because Lord alone knows we need some leadership at the moment because it's lacking.
Hear, hear. Well, Rob Garson, we thank you for joining us today. I think the biggest question, we hope to have you back on. I think the question that a lot of Americans are asking themselves right now is, who the hell is actually running this country? Because it doesn't look like it's this guy. But that's a question that we're going to have to ask you another time. We appreciate you coming on State of the Nation, sir. Welcome to the program. Hopefully we can get you back again and again and again. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. There he goes. That's Rob Garson. You are watching State of the Nation on today's News Talk, TNT.
TNT's Misty Wind.